we had a wee technical issue there, but it seems to be sorted now with the microphones. But we're ready. Welcome to the meeting of the Tackling of Poverty and Inequalities and Housing Subcommittee. This meeting has been live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. When speaking the Teams chat function, we want to contribute. If you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it's intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting. So we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone, making contributions and referring to reports. Please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. Similar to the process now followed at full council, when considering motions amendments which are substantive in nature, I'll call a recess where necessary so that I may seek government's advice on competency. It's a good practice in government's term and will also provide for governments to be able to collate and circulate the terms of the said motion amendment to members in order that they have the opportunity to properly review it. I hope this process makes matters more effective and seek member support in implementing this. With several important reports to consider today, and I anticipate we will deal with the business in our usual efficient manner. First item on the agenda is sederunt and apologies. Claire, can you provide the sederunt and any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. We've got 7 members present this afternoon. The Chair, Vice Chair, Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Beretti present here in the hall. On Teams we have Councillors Davis, McGregor and McFarlane. I should say that Councillor Beretti is here as a substitute for Councillor Jameson, whose apologies have been received. All other members not present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. The second item is the declaration of interest. Any declaration of interest or statements of connection which you wish to make? No? Move on to 3, minute of the previous meeting. These are for approval. We approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of October 2025. No, so these have been approved. On to 4, evaluation of cost of living project for children and young people. Summer of Play 2025, report by Head of Thriving Communities. This is a very positive report which shows the impacts of the Summer of Play scheme and it shows the hard work put in by local communities to make this a success and make sure that all children in all the wards throughout the Fishing Galloway have been catered for. So we're very pleased to have some young people here who benefit from our council's funding for Summer of Play and volunteer with some of the activities in the Wigtonshire area in the area with us today. We're also joined by one of our third sector partners who received funding from the Summer of Play programme alongside Council's youth work team who coordinated the programme. I'll hand over to Mark Malloy to introduce the Heath Hall Community Centre Group.
Thanks, Chair. So this report today is here because members agreed last year at the committee that they would like to hear more from the community groups and the young people involved in the project that when Summer of Play was delivered. So I'll hand over in a second to the young people that's here today with us. But just to mention for members that in terms of the presentations for committees, we've taken forward the work that was agreed at the previous meeting around putting in place a programme for the full part of 2026 to receive presentations that are more focused on finding out about the good practice that's happening across Scotland, also from some of the national organisations such as Joseph Rowntree Foundation and Child Poverty Alliance. So the members will see that shift into 2026's presentations away from hearing from our community groups and the work that's happened locally in 2025. So just to say that this will be the last of this type of presentation. We'll move into that new type in 2026 as the members agreed at last committee. And I'll hand over to Rebecca McClyman from the Youth Work Service, who's done a great job coordinating the Summer of Play programme for the last few years. And Rebecca will take us forward and introduce the guests that are with us today.
Thank you. My name's Rebecca McClyman and I'm responsible for delivering Summer of Play as a funding scheme each year. I'm not going to speak too much because we've got some young people here today who are going to do a wee presentation. So we've got Sophie, Nika and Lewis, who are young volunteers from the Douglas Ewart High School, and we've also got Hannah from Heath Hall Community Centre. So I'm just going to hand over to them.
The Summer of Play project background. Summer of Play has been delivered in Dumfries and Galloway annually since 2021. Summer of Play provides free summer holiday activities and opportunities for young people and children aged 5 to 16 who experience poverty or inequalities, and is also available for people up to 25 for care experienced young people. Funded activities focuses on 6 priority groups within the region's child poverty plan. Lone parent families, families which include a disabled adult or child, larger families with 3 or more children, minority ethnic families, families with a child 1 year old in the household, and families where the mother is under 25 years of age.
Summer of Play 2025. £264,000 allocated from policy investment funding to deliver Summer of Play as part of mitigations to tackle the cost of living crisis and poverty inequalities. In July 2025, the Scottish Government confirmed £29,000 would be awarded to our council in order to provide a targeted Summer of Play offer for children and young people with additional support needs and disabilities. Similar to previous years, third sector and council services were invited to apply for funding to run free activities for children and young people during the summer holidays. 37 third sector organisations funded, 7 council services funded, Amazing Summer Road Shows funded.
How were children and young people involved throughout the project? Co-production group made up of children and young people set the fund's priorities, such as what activities should look like. They also designed the fund criteria, such as all activities must be free and children and young people must be involved in the funding application and co-design of activities. Members of the Youth Council sat on the scoring panel and made decisions on who would be receiving funding. Youth councillors from across the region also visited activities that were funded throughout the summer.
Summer of Play 2025 at a glance. 10,209 children and young people aged 5 to 16 years old in Dumfries and Galloway took part in at least one of the activities on offer, increased from 9,417 in 2024. 2,626 children and young people accessed the Amazing Summer Road Shows, increased from 2,433 in 2024. A total of 1,665 sessions were delivered across all provisions, increased from 826 in 2024. Activities took place in all 12 ward areas. There was an activity on every day between the 4th of July and the 20th of August 2025, which was every day of the summer holidays. 53% of participants identified as female, 47% of participants identified as male.
86% of all children and young people reported that they feel better about themselves after taking part in an activity. 88% of children and young people said that they wouldn't have been able to take part in the activity if they were not free of charge, and this links directly to it being targeted at those in poverty. 71% of parents and carers reported a significant improvement in their child's mental health after taking part in activities. 80% of children and young people reported an increase in their physical health by taking part in sports-based activities, and 22% of children and young people reported that they had tried a new activity for the first time.
The breakdown of which child poverty priority groups children and young people accessing identified within, people were asked to select their group. Families which include a disabled adult or child, 37%, lone parent families, 25%, larger families with 3 or more children, 16%, minority ethnic families, 9%, families with a child under 1 year old in the household, 9%, families where the mother is under 25 years of age, 4%. Third sector organisations. £109,000 of funding was allocated to the third sector organisations. Our council worked with third sector Dumfries and Galloway to develop the arrangements for the third sector fund to ensure it was co-designed with the sector and that we achieved full coverage across the region and targeted the priority groups. Applications totalling over £150,000 were received and 37 organisations and projects were successfully awarded funding. Organisations were funded across all 12 ward areas of Dumfries and Galloway.
Council services. £110,000 of funding was allocated to council services or projects. 7 services or projects were successfully awarded funding. Council-funded projects ran in all 12 ward areas of Dumfries and Galloway.
The Amazing Summer Roadshows. Due to the positive impact and feedback received in previous years relating to the Amazing Summer Roadshows, £65,000 was ring-fenced for the delivery of the Amazing Summer Roadshows, which took services for children and young people into the heart of local communities across our region. This saw 64 sessions delivered in 64 communities over a 6-week period in every ward. The roadshows were coordinated by Youth Work Services, but were a collaborative effort across the third sector, NHS and council services. Scottish Government funding. In July, our council was notified that the Scottish Government was awarding funding of £29,000 as a one-off to support holiday play schemes and activities for disabled children and young people. This funding was used to expand our council's Summer of Play programme for 2025 and was awarded to regional organisations who work with young people with additional support needs and disabilities. This funding was awarded to Parents Inclusion Network and Dumfries and Galloway Carer Centre.
Here are some pictures that organisations sent us showing young people having an amazing summer. Activities included sports, outdoor learning, community fun days, trips, cinema sessions, carriage driving, arts, summer camps, free leisure passes and music. We'd like to welcome Hannah Whittle. Hannah is the Community Development Worker at Heath Hall Community Centre. The centre received funding through the Summer of Play and Hannah is here today to share what they have delivered and the impact this has had on children and young people.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I want to share what the Summer of Play has meant specifically for Heath Hall Community Centre, because our experience shows clearly why this funding stream is vital for Dumfries and Galloway. The Summer of Play didn't just fund our activities at Heath Hall Community Centre, it fundamentally changed what was possible in Heath Hall. We are a small, volunteer-run community centre, and before this fund, we had a limited capacity to offer structured holiday provision. This funding allowed us to increase footfall, grow visibility, and crucially widen our reach at a time when children needed support the most. Because of the Summer of Play Fund, we welcomed children we had not previously reached. These included care experienced young people, children living in hardship, and Ukrainian children fleeing war who found safety in Dumfries and Galloway. These are children who would not have travelled into town or paid for summer clubs. They needed something local, accessible and free, and this fund made that possible. Parents told us repeatedly that the fact it was free made all the difference. Summer is often the hardest time of year for families facing financial stress. Food costs rise, childcare becomes complex, and parents worry about keeping children safe, active and entertained. Parents in Heath Hall told us that having free provision within walking distance was a lifeline. It meant their children could enjoy a summer that was full, fair and fun, not just simply endured. The fund enabled us to deliver a high-quality, varied programme of activities that otherwise would not have existed. We ran a boxing session, a football session, 2 cooking sessions, a movie night, several playful garden sessions, a wellbeing and self-care workshop, and a big end-of-summer community party. All sessions were fee-free and included food and drink for participants. Every activity created purpose, learning, confidence, and connection. Our Summer of Play also strengthened our partnerships with external organisations. Working together deepened the relationships we rely on throughout the year, and the community told us clearly that these new opportunities were noticed, valued, and long overdue in Heath Hall. One of the most significant legacies of the programme was the creation of our youth committee. Because the summer created such a positive environment, several young people asked for more responsibility. They wanted to contribute, to volunteer, and to help children. This led to the formation of a group of young leaders who gave up their own summer to develop skills, take on roles, and shape the activities themselves. This wasn't simply participation, it was genuine empowerment, and it happened because the Summer of Play created the right conditions for young people to thrive. Those young people now see Heath Hall Community Centre as their space. That sense of ownership has transformed our entire organisation. It has embedded youth voice into our business model and strengthened the long-term sustainability of the centre. When young people feel pride and belonging, they help shape the culture, purpose and future of their community. Slide 14 asks the most important question: why does the Summer of Play matter? And in the context of today's review, it's vital to understand that this programme delivers impact that cannot be replicated through any other local funding route. Summer is a time when inequalities widen, routines break down, isolation increases, food costs rise, and families face additional pressures. The Summer of Play Fund closes that gap, giving children from disadvantaged backgrounds the same opportunities for joy, learning, and friendship as any other child. This programme also makes inclusion real. At Heath Hall, we saw Ukrainian children forging new friendships. We saw care-experienced young people develop trust and confidence. We saw children who felt overlooked discover that they belonged somewhere. These are outcomes rooted in dignity, safety, and fairness. The young people themselves told us how much it mattered. They said it helped their mental health, it gave them something to get up for, it gave them a safe place, and for some, these were the only structured activities they had all summer. The legacy of the Summer of Play is not temporary. It reshapes small organisations like ours' future, as well as the future of the communities that we serve. Our young leaders told us that the summer of 2025 was truly one to remember because it was the first time they felt they could really make a difference in their community. These are young people who might once have been considered a lost generation, disconnected, unsure, lacking in confidence, and the Summer of Play gave them roots, social capital, and purpose. Heath Hall's experience shows that when small local places are properly supported, they create big, lasting change. The Summer of Play didn't just fund activities, it rebuilt confidence, belonging, and community for young people who needed it the most. These outcomes don't happen without investment. This funding stream is vital to protecting childhood fairness in Dumfries and Galloway. Thank you for considering what's at stake and for safeguarding the support that allows our young people not only to cope, but to flourish. Thank you, finally, to the Youth Work team for inviting Heath Hall Community Centre here today. We're grateful for a chance to share our experiences and proud to work alongside you to support children, young people and families across our region.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Lewis, Nika and Sophie for giving the young person's perspective and introducing the item. And thanks very much to Anna for giving a detailed account of what's happening in Heath Hall, which is hopefully a mirror of what's happening across the whole region. So I'll open it up to members for comments and questions.
Okay,
Ferguson.
Chair, thanks very much, and thanks everybody for your presentations. It's as always, it's quite humbling actually when you see, when you've been sitting here for quite a while and you're seeing every year it's different people who come and do the presentations, which means it's not the same people year on year on year. We're continually upskilling not only our own staff and our own workers and our people who support the community centres, for example, but also the young people themselves. So I'm actually really pleased to see that. I'm particularly interested in the work at the community centre because you're right, it's been a sleeping giant for a long time, and if this is the kickstart it's been needing, and good and well, and I welcome that. I'm not so sure it could be replicated across the whole region, Chair, because I don't think there'd be funding to do the whole region at one time, but it's small steps, isn't it? And for what's a small step for the programme is actually quite a massive step for Heath Hall and the community centre per se. The last time I was there, it was mainly old people that were there. and I'm pleased to see there's youngsters in it as well. I'm really lucky in my own ward that all my community centres have got kids involved in the management programmes and everything else. And I hope you can keep that going in Heath Hall. So well done for that, and well done to the three of you. It's good. It's a long journey to come for a few minutes, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, sorry, just couldn't get the microphone on there, Chair. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'd like to echo Councillor Ferguson's comments in relation to the input by the young people and Heath Hall Community Centre. It's really inspirational for us to hear that, and it's really good to know that the investment's worthwhile and that is actually making a positive impact on young people. But I have a question for some of the officers. It's in relation to page 28, where we have a breakdown of the third sector organisations and the investments that we've put into them. And I see it's been broken down into the locality areas, Wigtonshire, Stewart, Trainersdale and Annandale, etc. I'm just wondering, is it possible that we can get some sort of breakdown in relation to the cost per head, and is it equitable? So are we investing sort of, I know that the population in each of these areas will vary, so it's as does the investment within them. So I'm just wondering, are we investing similar amounts of money per head of population for the young people in that area? And do we have any potential gaps? And if so, how do we identify them and how do we address them? Thank you.
Mark.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor McFarlane. I don't have that information to hand, so I'll happily get that for all members of the committee and circulate it. But what I can provide the reassurance to members on is that when the scoring panel was considering their applications, they were very clear the whole way through that about having the geographic spread across the region to ensure that young people from Langham right through to Stranraer were able to access activities. So although some organisations weren't funded, part of that consideration was about the geographic spread, but I will come back. It'll be relatively easy for us to get the information on the cost per head a population, and I'll circulate that to all members of the committee.
Satisfied with that, Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just if you like, a little supplementary. If Mark could tell us, I mean, I don't know how many of these are repeat applicants, and do we have that? But how do we encourage applicants to make sure that we do open it up to as wide a sort of ground base as possible?
Mark.
Thanks, Chair. So in terms of encouraging applications, we work very closely with Third Sector, Dumfries and Galloway, who ensure that information about the fund is provided to all community groups and Third Sector organisations across the region. And in addition to that, there was significant promotion done through a range of partners, including our council's social media channels, to try and ensure that we could get as much promotion and awareness of this fund as possible. In terms of the repeat applicants, again, I will provide that information separate because I don't have it to hand, and can provide that as part of a table to members to let you know around the per head of population and any repeat applicants. But the final bit was that with the work that Rebecca had done, we held some online kind of webinars where organisations could attend those in advance of applying to ask for any questions and get any support with applications, so that if a small community group was not able to apply or didn't think it was appropriately for them, they were able to go for that. And the example I would give for that was the small grant that went to St Johnstown or Dalry, where that group, if they hadn't attended and been part of the pre-information sessions, were thinking that the applicant wouldn't, the application wouldn't have been appropriate for them, and we really encourage those small community groups to apply. And to further support that, if organisations applied for a grant of, I think it was under £1,500, the application process was really simple and straightforward in a few pages, so that it was proportionate to the amount of money that they were applying for to support our small community groups.
Okay,
No, that's very,
okay.
yeah, thank you, Mark. That's very reassuring. Thank you, Chair.
And it's a question for young people. Obviously, you've been very enthusiastic in your presentation of it. So what do you think were the most interesting parts of your involvement with the Summer of Play scheme, and any things that you saw that young people were enjoying? Who would like to have a shot at that?
I'll go for that one. I was very heavily involved with the roadshows that were happening across Dumfries and Galloway, and every single one that I went to, they were mobbed. They were so busy, and we had like a range of activities and stuff that were available there. We always had positive feedback because of the fact that we were going to towns that maybe didn't normally have access to the youth work services, so there wasn't a like location that they could go to, or there wasn't anything that was normally accessible there for them. So they really appreciated the fact that we were coming to them and providing an afternoon full of activities that they could then go to. There was arts and crafts on, there was technology such as like Nintendo Switch and VR headsets, and there was outdoor games that all of the family and young people really appreciated. So I would say that that one was definitely one that had not the most impact, but it was definitely impactful throughout the summer.
Does Lewis or Nika want to come in on that or not? You okay with that? So you're speaking for the other two as well, Sophie. Hannah, what do you think was the most, she said that was a really great success at the Heath Hall Community Centre. What would you say the great successes were?
It's hard to pinpoint just one great success. I feel like the whole summer was very successful in itself. We welcomed over 200 young people through our doors over the course of the summer. At the bigger community events, we also welcomed youth work and did the Sunset Beats, the Youth Beats event as well. So we had a range of activities on over the summer, and we just think that the whole of summer 2025 was an incredible success for us.
Sometimes difficult to choose your favourite thing. Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks very much. I'm not sure we'll be able to get an answer today, but maybe it's something that Mark can take away and get back to us, especially as we're in budget setting time. And the question really is, if you look at the table on page 29 of the report, you can see leisure facilities, 14,000, youth work, 33,000. Their involvement's tangible here. You can touch it almost, yeah. And again, we've had the voluntary organisation saying without the youth work input, it made it somewhat more successful. So you've got children and family social work at 38,800. And I think the question is that funding that comes from social work services for example, self-directed support for youngsters who've got disabilities or additional support needs? And if it's not, how do they spend nearly 39,000 on this project? I'm being very careful here because I don't want to see this budget reduce, and we'll do everything we can to actually make sure it at least stays the same if we can. So we need to ask that serious question about what is the value of the 38,800 coming in from social work? What was it meant for? And if we can get that for budget setting time, Mark, it would be really helpful. Because again, if it's self-directed support, that's already accounted for in the social work budget. And whilst these are free, but if they're getting self-directed support to attend, then the self-directed support should quite rightly come to you. So it's maybe just need to be accounted for in a different way. So I'll leave it in your capable hands to find out if just exactly what that is.
Mark?
Councillor Ferguson. So in terms of, my understanding is that the funding social work got was to enhance the offer for their children and young people that their frontline staff were working with. So it allowed the frontline social workers across the region to be able to access funding to provide opportunities for the families and for the individual young people that they were working with. So the money within that table is specifically allocated as part of Summer of Play, and it was using the experience and skills of our social work staff to then allocate that appropriately to individual families. But I can take back through the directorate within social work and get a bit more information around the specific points that you mentioned around the self-directed support, and come back to members of the committee.
Okay, can I come back in, Dick? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mark, if you can do that, because I totally get it, and if this is so I'm assuming from this then the 3,800 is top sliced off the social work budget and passed across. So effectively they're commissioning you to deliver that on their behalf. Is that right?
No, Councillor Ferguson, that is the money that's within the table in 29, where social work services receive 38,000, is part of the allocation of 264,000 from policy investment money. So it's not core social work budget, it's the summer of play budget. Social work applied for a grant for it and were awarded £38,000 from that. So it's not core social work budget, but it's the summer of play budget of the 264 agreed non-recurring budget for this financial year.
Okay, Dick, so just so I've got this absolutely clear, so does that mean the whole 110,000 is funded from the specific fund rather than through core budgets? This is over and above core budgets?
Yeah, you're correct. That's all the money within table in page 28 and 29 is funded fully from the summer play money, which is the policy investment funding over and above core revenue budgets for all services.
Is there any other questions for our young people and their representatives? Or any other questions on the report? No? So we can go to the recommendations, then I'll thank the young people and Anna and Rebecca before we go, but we've got some recommendations to do as official business. First one is to agree to receive a presentation, and we've agreed that, from third sector partners and young people who have been involved in summer play as detailed in 4.4, 14.4, 17, and secondly, to scrutinise and agree the summer of play evaluation report in the appendix, and we have done that. So we're okay to agree 1 and scrutinise and agree 2. Okay, thank you. That just leaves me to thank our panellists today. Thank you, Hannah, for telling us about the Heath Hall work. Luz, Nika and Sophie for so well presenting the report, and Rebecca for supporting them in social work. It was good to see young people involved at every stage of this project, actually involved in developing the projects through Feast and Galloway, also involved in the scoring of the projects, and then being involved in delivering them. So that was really good to see. And it was good to hear about what's happening in Heath Hall, and I think you used 2 important words there. The young people were empowered. I think that's it. We're empowering people across the region to make them feel as part of the community, and be included. Our word used was inclusive, so I think that's another important word, and that's good to see that inclusion is taking place in our community so that everybody can participate in these great projects. So thank you all for your attendance. So that's, and maybe hear again from you next year and what you've done next year. Thank you. Thank you. Right. We're on to item 5, council-wide investment and resourcing to tackle poverty and inequalities. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. This is a report which was requested by members of the committee, and I think it goes to show what lengths we're going in the Feast and Galloway to support tackling poverty across the region. I've got Mark Malloy here to assist members if you have any questions. Mark, you want to say anything else, Mark, or are you quite happy to go to questions? Okay, so we'll open the questions on the council-wide investment. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this report. I think it was very much my request, and it really does show how much money is helping households and getting into people's pockets through the various different sources and funding. I just want to check on page 43 that we have our budgets for the various headings. At what point do we find out how much was actually used of those budgets? So when do we receive that report back of what was actually used? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Lowe, for the question. So the committee would normally receive the full evaluation of all the policy investment funding post the end of the financial year. So depending on the committee timeline, it'll either be in April or May 2026. My understanding from all the relevant services at the moment is that services are anticipating fully spending the allocations which they have been given in the financial year. There is no one at the moment reporting that they would be expecting any significant underspends, and if there's any pressures within any of those areas where demand has exceeded the budget, they would be contained within the relevant service overall budget, but we'd bring that report back in April or May depending on the committee cycle.
Got Councillor McGregor online.
Thank you and good afternoon, Chair. Just a quick question on the sort of external funding that's come through from Scottish Government, and it does list what it is. Is any of this potentially affected by shared prosperity funding and the late sort of announcement of what's going to happen with that particular funding, or is this all relatively protected? Thank you.
Mark.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor McGregor, for the question. So I think when we've done this analysis, working with colleagues across our council, I think every funding stream is potentially in a different place and different position. Some of it from the Scottish Government is committed to the end of the current Parliament term. Some of it is from the UK money is committed longer term to the end of the UK Parliament term. Some of it's on an annual basis, and some of it has been funded for a number of years, so it's very different for every funding stream.
Thanks for that, Mark. Yeah, possibly just a bit of a follow-up then, because a lot of these are fairly important funding streams and are doing a power of work within the region. Some may be announced in the Scottish Government's budget in January, but what risk analysis have we done against this if funding doesn't come through, accepting that we've got an election in May? And as I say, there's some ambiguity around some of the UK government funding. Have we done a bit of a risk analysis around exit strategies, I suppose, I'm thinking of?
Question about exit strategies, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So in terms of each of the projects that Councillor McGregor might recall that we would previously ensure on an annual basis that each of the projects funded through policy investment funding, or where there's specific external funding, has an exit strategy in place for that. The reality is that for some of that funding, if it was to end, there's not another source of funding that would be able to mitigate against that. So we are aware of it, and the relevant officers do ensure that the exit strategies are there, but this is also included within the council-wide risk that is reported to Audit Risk and Scrutiny Committee that we had just taken 2 months ago, and it's particularly highlighted within theirs to ensure that members are aware of that risk.
Any other questions, Gail?
No, that's perfect, thank you.
Anybody else want to come in? I don't have any hands going up. So we'll go to the recommendations then. 1, note the current allocation and spend of Scottish Welfare Fund as set out in tables of the appendix. And 2, note the estimated spend for 25-26 and available funds to be carried over to 26-27 as detailed in paragraph 4.2.5. We're happy to note 1 and 2. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, happy to note, just as a kind of prefix to it, it'd be quite handy if, when we're reporting in to this committee regional figures, that we actually have the district by district, area by area figures. So, now I appreciate they'll be going to area committee anyway, but it'd be handy for us to get the over picture. Next time it's reported, if we could have the area expenditures in at the same time, and then of course the aggregate amount would be what we'd consider here today. So that would be quite handy. Sorry, I was sleeping a wee bit there.
Does somebody want to come in on that one? Mark?
Thanks, Chair. Apologies here, but I think that those recommendations are for the next report. I think that we've just been possibly mixed up the recommendations, so I think you may need to revisit the recommendations for that item 5.
Are you ahead of yourself, Andy?
No, not me. No, it's you, I think, Chair.
Me? Yeah, okay. Okay. So, yeah, all right, because, yeah, I'm ahead of myself. Not you, Andy, so apologies. So members asked to one note that the total investment to tackle poverty and inequalities is circa £31 million in 2025-6 as detailed in sections 410 and 411. And 2, scrutinise the detail of each funding stream as detailed in the appendix. So happy to note 1 and scrutinise 2. Okay, thank you. Which takes us on to...
Yeah, and that, in future, if we could actually, because that work's getting done for the 4 area committees, so it's just so it's all under one banner here, for lack of better words.
Yeah, I think where we can provide that information, we'll be happy to do that. If members want to see that information in future years, again, I'll make sure that's included in an area breakdown where we have that information that's available.
Happy with that one? Okay. So we're on to 6. Maybe I'll just miss it, go to the 7th. But, Scottish Welfare Fund update report by Chief Financial Officer. Lorna Campbell and Paul Doherty are here to assist if members have any questions. I'll open up the meeting to members. Do we end to add, Lorna?
No, nothing for that yet, thanks.
So I'll open it up to questions. Councillor Barretti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was noticing that table 1 on page 55, the very first table where it has the figures for the various years back to 2021, the very first column, the figures don't add up correctly. So I just wondered, why is that?
Is it table 1, sure?
Yeah. I mean, you can see that there's 3 figures, Scottish Government funding top-up and tackling poverty. And the very first figure is 256, the last 3. But if you look at the total funds available, it says the last 3 figures are 896. So, and I calculated that came out to a different sum altogether. So that means that that portion there is wrong, or there's a piece of information missing from that, and then that would put the whole of the other set out as well.
What's your total, Andy? Tony?
Well, the total I came to with the first 3 sections was 1,997,256. And it says total funds available, well, 1,996,896.
Yeah. So the discrepancy there, is that just a typo or?
Yeah, apologies, it's a typo. What I can see is the carried forward is the correct value in here. It's the summing up of those values that's incorrect. So apologies for that. That's a typo.
So I'm just going to come back. So can the whole of that table then be recalculated? Because from what I saw, there might be a mistake based on that first figure.
Make sure that's included in the minutes.
Yeah, we'll get that recalculated and included in the minutes. Apologies for that. Yeah.
Any other questions anybody's got? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. Lorna, I'm fairly certain I know what the answer is here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In that table 1, the Welfare Fund, there's repeated underspends and underspends and underspends. Is there a recurring theme here? What's the reason for the underspends?
Lorna.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. We have repeatedly throughout the year tried to manage demand, so we do change the priority levels. Back in 21 and 22, we did have a medium priority level, but obviously demand is what we predict it to be. It's not an exact figure, so we will move priority levels to make sure we have manage that fund within the year. And we've always, when we've reported to committee, we did on a regular basis, tried to ensure that there was a degree of underspend at the end of the year to protect the next year. Because at no point, really until the end, we're approaching the end of the financial year, do we know what our funding is going to be for the next year. So there's always been an element of prudence in there when we're trying to manage that fund throughout the year.
Thanks, Chair. Lorna, thank you. That's kind of what I thought the answer was going to be. I think I've asked you that in the past. So it's interesting to see this year we're up at 755,000 carried forward underspend, which is significant. Are you saying we're expected to use most of the fund between now and the end of the financial year, or will there be another substantial over carry forward for this fund?
Yeah, I think the reason for it being so high, the carry forward into the current year, was the additional 457,000 that came from the Scottish Government didn't come until December last year. So we had already been very prudent throughout our year in our spending. So that meant towards the end of the year, we still had more than we thought. We expect our spend, and based on, I just had a look at it this morning where we're on a similar spend than compared to last year. So at the moment we're looking at probably about 400,000 at the end, somewhere between 400 and 500,000 towards the end of the year we'll have to carry forward into next year. But like I said, we're open to demand, so a lot will depend what happens over the next 4 months.
Okay, thank you. So I take it that'll go into the top-up figure when that's known for 25-26 as you work this figure next year. Is that right? Yeah, thanks.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. On the same page 55, table 3, the community care grants for those that need when they move. Is that the figure for the whole of Dumfries and Galloway for whichever agency might refer them? So, for example, our RSLs, when folks move in, they should be telling people that, you know, if they're entitled to, or if they should need carpets or white goods or whatever. So does that include all the sources of referrals for Dumfries and Galloway, or is it just the council referrals?
No, that's the full spend for community care grant, regardless of where the referral came from.
Follow up, Councillor Law.
That's fine.
Have there any more questions or observations? I don't see any. Well,
I guess it's against the same table as well. It's number of applications received and the number of applications awarded. There seems to be sometimes like 40-50% maybe are allocated. Is that poor signposting? Is that people who just don't kind of read the guidance? And I'm sure that it will be signposted onto where they can get help if it's inappropriate and the wrong fund. But it does seem to be quite a lot of applications that are being received that are not appropriate. So how can we maybe ensure that people are signposted in a more positive way so that more of it is used?
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Yes, it tends to be, and I think I mentioned it in the report, where people are applying for things that are not covered, either because we're at high level, so they're applying for items that, for things like travel or additional floor covering. But there is also the signposting in there. We do try to have information on our website about what, who should apply and in what circumstances, but we do get a lot of applications where they don't fully read that. But under the guidance as well, we can't refuse an application, so the way the current guidance is set out, we can't stop an application. So while we can put information out there to say this is what you can apply for and what you may be eligible for, we still have to take an application and process it. But it's something we constantly review, is what's on our website, what information our third sector partners and our other partner organisations within the council are telling customers. So we constantly review that to try and make sure that we only get applications where there is a potential of eligibility, but obviously we can't stop them if they do come in.
So if people are coming forward and it's not appropriate, can I presume that there's sort of a general assessment of anything else they might be entitled to, and then whether it's through the Fiat team or any other sources that they receive everything they're entitled to receive.
Yeah, the team have a wealth of resources at their fingertips, so they will signpost to support organisations, other areas, food banks, other furniture recycle places that potentially will help customers. So yes, they will refer on and try and give as much advice as possible if someone doesn't qualify.
Thank you, members. Any further questions? No, so we'll go to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the current allocation and spend of Scottish Welfare Fund set in the tables of the appendix, and to note the estimated spend for 2025-26 and available funds to be carried over to 26-27 as detailed in paragraph 4.25. I'll be happy to note 1 and 2. Okay, thank you very much, members. Last item is any other business deemed urgent by the Chair due to need for a decision. I've not been notified of any urgent business, so can I thank members and officers for their attendance today, and I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much. The next meeting date is Thursday the 5th of March 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.